Hey guys, 大家好. So welcome back to lesson 12 at Cantolounge's grammar series. And first of all, warm season's greetings to you guys watching from all over the world. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and the site by coming back. It really means a lot, and I hope that you'll have a wonderful holiday season. Okay. So today we have kind of a big lesson today, and today's lesson will be on how to do comparisons in Chinese and Cantonese, and this is really all about examples. So feel free to follow along. You can just listen to how I pronounce these sentences and how they're used in these example sentences, and feel free to try out your own sentence because that's when these structures really stick, right? All right, so because we have such a big lesson, without further ado, let's get started. So pattern number one, we have adjective plus D. So this pattern means a bit more of that adjective. Okay. So for example, we have in this example, 甜啲. So that would translate to a bit sweeter, right? So the full sentence reads, 我自己覺得杯檸茶甜啲. I myself think that this cup of lemon tea is a bit sweeter. So it might be in reference, in comparing to someone to something else, right? It could be another drink that someone else previously drank. Okay, fairly straightforward, I think. All right. I do have to point out a second use of the word di. So when you see this pattern, adjective plus 咗 plus di, this is actually used to make, or it's one way to form rhetorical questions. So for example, we have something like this, 濕咗啲 at the end of a sentence. 呢碟乾炒牛河會唔會濕咗啲呢? Don't you think this fried rice noodles with beef is a bit too soggy? Right? So it's usually, you'll often hear, 會唔會, and then adjective 咗啲 in this kind of a structure. Okay. So this is something to just pay attention to. You don't really need to. It's not hugely important, but it's nice to know it exists. And there's also another usage of D that I would like to share with you guys. So these would be the colloquial usages of D. So I think these are the ones that are probably the most well known. So for example, you get some stuff like 快啲啦, 趕時間啊, 快啲啦, hurry up, right? So 快啲, if we used the first definition, it would translate to faster, right? A bit faster. But 快啲啦, when you add that la, it will translate to a short, complete phrase on its own. So just be careful of that. That there are some colloquial translations of phrases that include D. So hurry up, I'm in a hurry here. All right, so I think that that's all on D today. Number two, we're moving on. We have 好多 or 少少. Oh, and by the way, I hope that you guys will start to recognize some of these characters that are very commonly used. Even if you can't write them, that's fine, but try to be able to recognize them at the very least. Yeah. Anyway, so 好多 or 少少. So this is when you want to say something is a lot more adjective or a little bit less adjective. So for example, we have 大杯少少 here, right? And 大杯 is kind of like when talking about drinks. There's small, medium, and big sizes. This would be, sorry, the large cup size. So this is a little bit bigger, right? The full sentence reads, 我自己覺得呢度啲飲嘢大杯少少，但係唔係好多咯。And this sentence actually cuts out, I guess, the adjective in the second part of the sentence. It should really read 但係唔係大杯好多咯. But you can feel free to omit that, right? So we've got 大杯少少 and 大杯好多. 大杯少少 would be a bit bigger, right? 大杯好多 would be a lot bigger. So the full sentence translates to, I myself think that the drinks here might be in a convenience store, in a restaurant, a drinks bar, are a bit bigger, but not by that much, right? But not a huge lot. Okay. So moving on, and number 3, we have this pattern. So you can add 好似 or 同 and then target. By target I mean like a target of comparison. So it's typically a noun, something that you're comparing the current thing with. 咁 plus adjective. And if this sounds confusing, we'll have a look at the example and it should hopefully clear things up. So 好似, just to clarify, means like, as in when you're talking about like in a metaphor. It's like that. This tastes like, I don't know, chocolate or something. 同 means and, right? So again, let's have a look at the sentence to see how this works. So we actually have a negative example here. So the negative example is 冇佢咁長氣. So instead of the 好似 or 同, we replace that with 冇. Okay, and the target would be 佢, the target of comparison. 咁 would be part of the pattern, and 長氣 would be the adjective. So not as 長氣, which means long-winded, as him. Okay. Or if you want to change it to the positive, you might say something like 同佢一樣咁長氣, or 好似佢咁長氣. Yep. So that works as well. So this full sentence reads, 我絕對冇佢咁長氣. 佢一輪嘴可以講一粒鐘，唔會收口. I'm nowhere near. I'm definitely not as long-winded as him. He can rant on and on for an hour without stopping, shutting up, right? A couple of pointers here. 一輪嘴 is a very colloquial expression. It means like in one breath, right? You start and then talk, and in one breath you can talk for an entire hour. Right? Again, usually used to describe someone who's really long-winded. 一粒鐘, 粒 is actually another colloquial classifier. Usually it's 一個鐘, but 一粒鐘 sounds a little bit more informal, so it's not wrong, it's just a variation of that. 收口 means to stop talking, right? 收, to take back or to reduce. 口, mouth, reduce, mouth, shut up. Kind of makes sense, right? All right, moving on. Number 4, we have 比起 plus, again, target of comparison. This is actually a very useful short phrase, as you'll see in the example here. So highly recommend that you commit this to memory. So for example, it's super easy to use as well. 比起以前, or 比起以前嚟講. You can omit the 嚟講, that's perfectly fine. So 比起以前, okay, compared to before, which is the target of comparison, 佢而家成熟咗好多. He's a lot more mature. And so compared to before, I think that makes sense. I just wanted to point out to another grammar tidbit here. So you can see there's 咗 used here, but 成熟 is an adjective. So when you have an adjective that's followed by 咗, it means something that has changed from one state to another. So it's more of that adjective. In this case, more mature compared to before. So there's still an element of time there, but you can pair 咗 with an adjective instead of just verbs as well. I'm not sure if we've mentioned that before, but I just wanted to point out there, right? All right, so that is that. Moving on, pattern number 5, we have, oh, there we go. This is the pattern that I was talking about, adjective plus 咗. So once again, when you add 咗 after an adjective, it means it's more of that adjective compared to a previous time slice. So for example, in this, we have 靚咗, so more beautiful. 哇,冇見一排,成個人都靚咗喎,靚咗好多. Wow, it's only been a while since I've seen you, but look how much more beautiful you've become. And in case you're wondering, this isn't irony. You can actually be authentic if it sounds ironic or sarcastic. It doesn't have to be. Okay. Anyway, moving on. This is another one of my favorites of all time. 越嚟越 plus adjective, very easy to apply, but very useful nonetheless. So 越嚟越 means more and more or less and less depending on the nature of the adjective. So for example, 越嚟越靚 靚 is a positive adjective, so it's more and more beautiful. 越嚟越唔靚 so 唔靚 would be not beautiful, so 越嚟越唔靚 would be less and less beautiful. So, and like in English, we have more and more and less. We just have the 越嚟越 in Cantonese. Okay, so example. 越嚟越多 so more and more. Just more, right? That's the adjective. So 近呢幾年好似越嚟越多人移民去其他地方. So in recent years, 近呢幾年好似 it seems that 越嚟越多人 more and more people are immigrating 移民去其他地方 to other places. Another useful takeaway you might want to know, takeaway from here would be 好似. 好似 means it seems like a very useful expression as well. Okay. All right, so moving on. The next pattern is, this is a little bit, this is really one of my favorites of all time, because in comparison to like English or French, for example, or even like Japanese, Korean, it's just so easy to say in Cantonese. It flows so well, whereas it sounds a little bit more awkward in these other languages and more complicated. So 越 plus verb plus 越 plus adjective. This pattern translates to the more blah blah blah, the more blah blah blah. So if you can't think of an example, don't worry, we have an example coming right up. So for example, you might say something like, imagine someone who's like taking part in a competition. In today's competition, the more she played, the better she performed, right? So 今日個比賽嗰陣，我今日個比賽入邊，佢越彈發揮得越好。So you'll see, or very simply, 佢越彈越好。發揮得 is just like an extra bit. So 越彈 is the verb. 彈 here means to play an instrument. Only for some instruments, so like piano, the piano, and 好 would be the adjective. 越彈越好. The more she played, the better she played or performed, right? So very, it's like the more she played, the better she performed. It sounds so long in English, right? Whereas it's just 越彈越好, super concise in Cantonese. Okay, just to revisit that point I was talking about. 彈, remember, once again, it does not go with just any instrument. Like you can say 彈琴 to play the piano or 彈吉他 to play the guitar, but you have to use other verbs for certain other instruments. For example, 吹笛 to play the flute. 吹 means to blow, which kind of makes sense. You blow, to play the flute. And also you say 拉小提琴. 拉小提琴 means to play the violin. And 拉 means to pull, which makes sense as well because the motion is kind of like pulling. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, moving on. Pattern number 8, we have 唔好似 or 冇 plus target plus 咁 plus adjective. This is actually the inverse of the 同/ 好似 plus target plus 咁 plus adjective. And I think we've actually had an example actually of this pattern in the previous pattern there. So anyway, so let's have a look at another example. 唔好似 once again means 好似 means like. 唔好似 would be not like in terms of when we're talking about metaphors. 冇 is not as well. Okay, so let's have a look at the example. Very simple example. So 冇銅鑼灣嗰間咁大. So 銅鑼灣嗰間 would be the target of comparison. 大 would be the adjective. So the full sentence reads 呢間惠康冇銅鑼灣嗰間咁大. So this Welcome is a supermarket chain in Hong Kong. 冇銅鑼灣嗰間 isn't 咁大 as big as 銅鑼灣嗰間, the one in Causeway Bay. So just remember the orders is inversed in terms of the English word order and the Cantonese word order. Okay. All right, so again, fairly straightforward. So have you guys noticed like a recurring theme here? All of these patterns, grammar patterns in Cantonese are actually fairly simple to apply. Again, we don't have to worry about conjugations and registers, formality, and all that. Now, aren't you guys lucky learning Cantonese? Anyway, reverting back to the subject, pattern number 9, we have adjective plus 極都plus phrase. This is slightly more advanced, but just bear with me for now, and it'll all make sense. This also doesn't translate very well to English, in terms of there's not really something that, it's not really like a fixed structure per se, but we'll see how that works. So for example, you might say something like, you might hear it in Cantonese, 頭先個葡國雞飯差極都唔及上個月嗰間咁差. So slightly more complex, so let's break this down. Vocab first. 葡國雞飯 is, I looked it up, it says galinha portuguesa. It means chicken rice in Portuguese sauce. It's a wonderful dish. We usually have it in the Cantonese restaurant chain in Hong Kong. Anyway, so I think that's, ta means bad. Cup is another way of doing comparisons. Cup, not as when you compare it to another object. In this case, it would be 上個月嗰間. Okay, so let's break this down and do like a side-by-side translation. So 頭先個葡國雞飯, so the galinha portuguesa that we just had, right? 頭先, just had. 差極都, so that's where the pattern comes in. No matter how bad it wasn't as bad as 上個月嗰間都唔及上個月嗰間 as the one we had last month. Does that make sense? So let's do that again. 頭先個葡國雞飯, the galinha portuguesa that we just had, however bad it was, 差極都, because 極 represents a limit. So up to the limit, to the roof, the ceiling, that it was bad. It wasn't as bad as 上個月嗰間咁差, as the one we had last month in the other restaurant. Right? So the full sentence reads, the dish we had just now was nowhere near as bad as the one we had last month. So this sounds a lot more natural in Cantonese, but I just want to let you guys know that this pattern exists. All right, so moving on. Number 10, Thai plus adjective. This is a fairly straightforward one. Thai means too much of an adjective, plus adjective. So for example, we have 呢杯杏仁霜沖得太甜啦. 太甜, too sweet. 好似放咗10羹糖入去咁. So a couple of vocab first. 杏仁霜, excuse me, it's an almond drink. Excuse me, it's a fairly popular drink in Hong Kong. You'll find it in all like those Tan Tang restaurants, Hong Kong restaurants. And 10羹糖, 羹 is a spoonful, 糖 is sugar. Okay, 沖 is like when you have powder and you add it to water. That motion of adding and stirring to make a drink is called 沖. Okay, so this almond drink is way too sweet. 呢杯杏仁霜沖得. Remember the 得 that we talked about in the adverb constructions in the previous lesson? 沖得太甜啦. So it's made way too sweet. It's like 好似me. It's like they've put in 放咗 10 spoonfuls of sugar in it. 10羹糖入去咁. Okay. So fairly straightforward application, I think. Moving on. Pattern number 11. Adjective plus 過頭 or 得. Oh, by the way, I think I just forgot to mention this. I think we had a couple more variations of this pattern, but once again, this is already a very long video lesson. So I recommend that you guys check out the post below here if you're watching this Cantolounge, or just check it out. Hop on to Cantolounge.com. I think there's a video link down in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube to check out the post. Okay. for like a full, an unadulterated version. Sorry. Moving on. Anyway, so we have pattern number 11, adjective plus,過頭 or 得滯. This actually means too much of something as well. But if you have to compare the previous pattern, 太 with 過頭 or 得滯, 過頭 or 得滯 probably implies an even greater extent than 太. Okay. And remember the word order as well. 太 comes before the adjective, whereas 過頭 or 得滯 comes after, even though they mean practically the same thing. So here we have 淡得滯. 淡 means a little bit bland or tasteless. 淡得滯, it's a little bit too bland, right? So the entire sentence reads 個湯煲出嚟淡得滯，其實放少少鹽調味係冇問題嘅. So 煲 is actually to make soup, just soup in particular. 煲 actually refers to the pot in which soup is made, but it can actually double as a verb as well. And let's see, 鹽 is salt, in case you didn't already know. 調味 means to season. Okay, so this sentence translates to 個湯煲出嚟. So the soup is made 淡得滯, just a little bit too bland. 其實 actually 放多少少鹽, if you put a little bit more salt, 調味 to season it 係冇問題嘅. It's okay, right? You don't have to worry about it being too salty or whatnot. Okay. So once again, 淡得滯, way too bland. All right, number 12, we have adjective plus 過 plus target of comparison. So let's just dive straight into the example here. So 過, we have here 新鮮過嗰個. So 新鮮 means fresh. 過, part of the construct, and 嗰個 the target of comparison. A is more fresh than B, the target of comparison. So this is just used to compare two things in tandem with each other. Fairly one of the most classical constructs. So the full sentence reads, 呢個街市啲菜, so this would be A, 新鮮過嗰個, that'd be B, the other market. 呢個街市啲菜, the produce sold in this market, 新鮮過 is fresher than the other markets. 過嗰個. Okay. I think fairly straightforward here as well. All right, moving on. We're almost there, guys. Pattern number 13. Object A plus B, object B, plus adjective. So A compared to object B is adjective, more adjective. So once again, very abstract unless you have a sample sentence, and then it's very straightforward here. So 乾炒牛河, which is A, 比炸薯餅 B, 油膩. 乾炒牛河, stir-fried noodles with beef, is greasier 油膩 than B, deep-fried hash browns. So that's that. So a couple of vocab here. 油膩 is oily, greasy, and 乾炒牛河it's a fairly common dish here in Hong Kong. 乾炒 is like pan-fried or fried. 牛河 河 is like flat rice noodles. It's a little bit thick, and it tastes wonderful. It's one of my favorite noodles at all times. 牛 is beef, obviously. So, and 薯餅 is hash browns. It makes sense actually. The way Cantonese works. 薯 is like part of 薯仔, which means potatoes. Bang is like biscuit, so potato biscuit hash browns. Unlike hash browns, you really don't know hash browns refer to hash browns if you just have a look. If you were to tell foreign language speaker hash browns means this, it's like, how did they connect the two? Anyway, moving on. Number 14, we have adjective plus number plus 倍. So sometimes we want to be a little bit more precise in comparing things. So this is usually used in the context of comparing prices. So for example, we have here 貴成10倍. So expensive by a factor of 10 times, right? 10倍, 10 times. So that's how you say it. So the full sentence reads, 點解呢隻保濕霜? Why is this moisturizing cream 比嗰隻牌子 in comparison to that brand 貴成10倍呢？more expensive by over 10 times. So putting it all together, why is this moisturizing cream 10 times more expensive than the other brand? Okay. Nothing too difficult here, but I just want to point out another thing, another classifier issue as well. So you might see here, why is 保濕霜paired with 隻? Shouldn't it be 個? Well, you're right. It should be 個 or 支 if you want to talk about like a bottle of something. But 隻 actually refers to a particular brand. So you can say instead of 一個電話 or 一隻, I guess you wouldn't say 一隻電話, but something like 手袋, like handbags, you can say 一個手袋呢一隻手袋 to differentiate between referring to this handbag in particular versus this brand of handbag, right? So the 隻 refers to the brand. And that's it. That is all there is here. 成, oh, by the way, 成 is another comparison-related word. 成 means up to, right? Why is it like up to 10 times more expensive than the other? Interestingly enough, we don't have another one for down to at the other side of the spectrum. Anyway, continuing, we have number 14, 仲 plus adjective. 仲 means even more. So, for example, we have here 仲差 at the end of the sentence, which means even worse here, even more bad, even worse. So, the entire sentence reads 呢度嘅信號算好㗎啦，如果你去啲山卡拉嘅地方仲差。So, vocab first, we have 信號, which means signal, in terms of like signal, cell reception. 算好, soon means to be counted as, san kala is actually a very, it's an interesting word. I'll bet that you walk up to 10 people who speak Cantonese and ask them how to write san kala, and probably 9 out of 10 of them won't be able to write it. The kala is like words that never appear in writing. Or another word that I'm aware of. Anyway, 呢度 means this place, right? 嘅信號, so the reception in this place is already pretty good, even though it's not as good, probably. 如果你去啲山卡拉嘅地方, if you go to some unknown places, 山卡拉 refers to some place that very few people live, few people go to, right? 仲差, it's even worse, right? Again, nothing too complicated here, so we are going to move on. Continuing, number 15, counting down. I think this is like the 5th last, or the 6th last. 最 plus adjective. So here we have the superlative pattern. So the most something, you want to say that, you can use 最 plus adjective. So for example, very simple example, 最貴, the most expensive. 香港樓價全世界最貴. Hong Kong property prices are the most expensive in the entire world, right? Fairly, I think, straightforward. Moving on, number 16, 咁多 plus classifier plus object 當中 plus 最 plus out. This sounds very long, so we might just dive into the example. This pattern here means the most something out of all of these things. So here we have 咁多間當中最清淡. So out of all of these, it's the most natural tasting, or least heavy, the lightest in terms of flavor. So the entire sentence reads 呢間越南餐館, so this Vietnamese restaurant, 係我食過咁多間當中, is, out of all of the restaurants I've eaten before, 個湯底整得, so the soup, where the soup is made, 最清淡自然嘅一間, the lightest, in terms of not heavy, in terms of flavor, and the most natural. Okay, so the entire thing reads, the Vietnamese restaurant makes one of the most natural tasting broths among all the ones I've tried. Just a couple of vocab here, so nothing too difficult if you look at that a little bit more closely, but Yeah, it's a longer construct than the other ones. I just want to point out a couple of issues with vocab. You might see here we've used a different word for restaurant here, which is 餐館 as opposed to 餐廳, which you might hear a little bit more often. 餐館 is like a little bit more, I guess, high class than 餐廳. 餐廳 is a little bit more like ordinary per se. And let's see. 湯底 is like the soup base. So yeah, like think about eating Japanese ramen or Korean ramyun or Vietnamese like noodles. We always talk about the soup base, and yeah, there's actually a word in Cantonese as well, equivalent to that, which is tong dai, soup, plus bottom, which is soup base. So, and this is all, I think, for this example. Moving on, we have number 17, as something plus object plus as. So here we have similes, yay. Actually, this isn't a simile, I'm sorry. This is, you'll see this is, it's a very English expression. You don't see, it does not translate very well into Cantonese, so I just want to give an example, as well as a Cantonese translation to show you how to translate trickier constructs that fit into this pattern. So in English, you might say something like, she was as patient a teacher as anyone could have had. So the pattern, as patient a teacher as blah, blah, blah. So instead of translating this as a whole, you might break it down into something like, as a teacher, she's already fairly patient. Okay, it's not as elegant, but sometimes these these things that you can say in one language might not work very well in a different language. And great strategy always is to simplify then translate. Okay, so as a teacher, 作為一個老師，佢算係非常之有耐性嘅老師㗎啦。So as a teacher, she already counts as one that has a lot of patience. She's already a very patient person as a teacher. Okay. All right, that's that for this example. And number 18, going back to numbers. So we have 高達, 低至, and 成. 高達 means up to, 低至 means down to, and 成 means up to again. 高達 and 低至 are used in, they're a little bit more formal. You might hear them in things like news reports. 成 is a little bit more colloquial. You might hear that more in conversations. Okay, so we have an example with 高達 here. So 高達40%. Oh, just a quick note on how numbers work. So when you want to say a percentage, you say 百分之, which means out of 100, and then the number, which represents the percentage. So for example, 40% would be 40%. Or you can say 40% as well. That's okay. So let's see. Here we have full sentence reads 全港蚊型單位嘅供應量嘅增幅高達40%。全港 the entire Hong Kong 蚊型單位 shoebox units. These are used to refer to units or apartments that are really small, that are typically less than 200 square feet in space. 嘅供應量 the supply of such units. 嘅增幅 the increase of the supply of such units. It's up to 40%. So the entire sentence reads in natural English order. The supply of shoebox units in Hong Kong have risen up to 40%. So now you want to say something like up to, or as little as, you now know how to say that in Cantonese. Yay, victory. All right, moving on. Number 19. We have adjective plus enough plus to plus phrase. And this is another, I guess, English, it's a very English sounding phrase. It really doesn't translate that well into Cantonese. So again, we have to rephrase that before we translate it back into Cantonese. So for example, we have, I'm not tall enough to reach into that cupboard. Very natural sentence in English, but you might want to split that up before you translate it back to Cantonese. So for example, you might say, I'm not tall enough. My hand can't reach into the cupboard. So I'm not tall enough, comma, 我唔夠高. My hand, 我隻手 can't reach into, 伸唔到 into the cupboard. 上去個櫥櫃, right? Fairly consistent word order. Just split the sentence into two parts in Cantonese. Okay, so vocab, 唔夠高, not tall enough. So to remember word order, in Cantonese it's not enough tall. In English we have not tall enough, right? San means to reach or to extend, and 橱櫃 means cupboard. 廚 means kitchen, 櫃 means like a cabinet, kitchen cabinet, cupboard. Makes sense, right? All right, finally, we have number 20. I think this is our last pattern where we have adjective plus do plus phrase. And if you've stuck with me for this long, congratulations. You've come across one of the most useful constructs in this lesson. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's also one of the most useful. This takes me back to when I was learning Korean, and it's like such a useful sentence to really enrich to add a bit of variation to your sentences. All right, so let's have a look at the example. Just start from English to and work our way backwards to Cantonese this time as well. So after finishing my run, you might say something like, I was so thirsty that I finished 3 bottles of water. So this is the structure I wanted to point to. I was so something, adjective here, that something something. So that's where this pattern comes into play. Adjective plus do. Do is a very important word in Cantonese. It means to the extent that, blah, blah, blah. So after finishing my run, 我跑完步, there's an implicit 之後, which means after here. You can drop it if you want. Cantonese is flexible that way. 頭先 just now, 頸渴到, so thirsty. I was so thirsty to the extent that 我飲咗成3樽水. I finished up to 3 whole bottles of water. Right, that makes sense, right? So once again, 飲咗成3樽水. I was 頸渴到, I was so thirsty that 我飲咗成3樽水, that I finished 3 whole bottles of water. Okay, so this is probably one of the more important constructs that it's more advanced, but it's really important. So I kind of prioritize learning and committing this to memory and trying this out if you can as well. All right, I think that's all we have for today. And if there's nothing that you can take away from here, just remember this. If you find that you want to say something in Cantonese from English or from your native language that is a little bit difficult, then your strategy is always to simplify first. You know, make an easier version of that, of what you want to express, and then you translate. Okay, there's no harm in saying something that doesn't sound as native, but like your objective is just to get something across that expresses, along the lines of what you want to express, right? And communication is at the end of the day the most important thing. All right, so that's all we have for today, and for the full post with even more examples, I think we have over 60 examples in today's post. Please visit cantolounge.com/Cantonese -comparisons/. We have a link down there at in the video description as usual below, and as usual, please like this video if you found it helpful. I would really appreciate that. And thank you so much for the viewership. I appreciate that as well. And as usual, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below or hop on over to cantolounge.com/. I think that's just questions, to leave a question there as well. All right. Thank you so much for following this lesson with me, guys. I knew it was a little bit long, so at the end of this, at the time of this recording, it's the 23rd of December, 2017. So I wish all of you guys a wonderful holiday season, and that you'll have a wonderful time with your friends and family. Okay. Next time we'll have some even more exciting material, and we're really ramping up the level of our sentences and grammar here. All right. Thank you so much for dropping by, guys, and I will see you hopefully next time. That's it for now. Take care, guys. Cheers.